Shop's coming together. I got my this whole bench completely cleared off. Underneath cleared off, toolboxes on the end and tools stuffed in. Shelves up on the wall here and stuff's starting to get kind of organized, finally. And then tomorrow morning I'm gonna get up at probably 5 o'clock and I'm going remote alone tomorrow. Maybe for 2 days. I'm gonna do a lot of filming too. And in the meantime, I don't know, I'm not absolutely familiar with how the Facebook apps work. Like I'll get some kind of message request and there's hundreds of message requests. And then it'll say I got a message from so-and-so, go look for it, can't find it. And then I think Messenger, there's 2 different kinds of messengers or something, I don't know, it's confusing as hell to me. And then, but I forget, I was trying to look for something on my Facebook page and I saw a post. Somebody tagged me or something, I don't know how to find the post, that's what I'm getting at. I don't know how to navigate my way through there smoothly. But all of a sudden, boom, I saw a post and somebody shared a handful of recent photographs, I believe it's from January. And I read it, and then I immediately went to copying the photographs so I could share them with all you guys. And then, I don't know what happened, something happened, I got interrupted as usual or something, and I didn't copy the text from the post or the message or whatever it was, and I can't find it for the life of me. So, here are the photos, and the story, what I remember was, it's in Campbell River, I know that, and it was out by the bottle depot, and there's a homeless camp there or something. Alright, had a quick interruption there, but anyway, so it was in January, it's recent, and this is the 4th person from Campbell River, Courtney area, who emailed me with photos and new experiences of recent footprints in the snow. A couple guys are hunters, another guy is a guide, another guy was a cougar hunting cats with his hounds and photographed prints. I haven't made it my way to sharing those emails online yet, on here yet. And then, but anyways, getting back to the one that I found on Facebook. If you are the person who sent me or tagged me or whatever you did, hopefully you're watching this right now, email me at sharemystory@howtohunt.com and email me the details again that go along with these photographs, all right? Because what I remember so far is it was just outside of Campbell River by the bottle depot. There's a homeless encampment there, some homeless people, and this thing was standing right there looking at them. And then it took off basically right around all the human buildings and parking lots and fences. You'll see the photos, I'll share them with you. Definitely odd kind of looking tracks, but they're same old, they're huge, and they're straight in line. And they're a little melted out by the time this person got there and took photographs. So, if you're familiar with that story, or even if you are one of the people that witnessed those footprints, and you want to share the details with all the people through me, go ahead and email it to sharemystory@howtohunt.com or tellmystory@howtohunt.com, and I'll get it out there, the details to go with these photos. So, share the photos right now, you guys take a look at it, make sense of it if you can, and all of you people in Campbell River, Courtney, who are watching this right now, just let it be known that you are in possibly what I would consider if there was a ground zero for activity and experiences with these forest people, these beings, it is right around you guys. Out of the whole entire Vancouver Island, Courtney, Campbell River seems to be ground zero for the most sightings. I don't know why. I know people, A-type, very successful, very avid, keen, experienced hunters who have found barefoot footprints in the cliffs in the Big Timber outside of Courtney, all the way to Gold River, Zavalis, where else, Cayuga, everywhere in that great big stretch of Strathcona Park, obviously, Forbidden Plateau, Hill Ski Hill, named Forbidden Plateau strictly due to, in relation to these forest people, these beings. But there you go. I thought I'd share that, get these photographs shared right away, and hopefully whoever took them can email me right away with the text. And don't do it on social media. Don't message me on social media, because I probably won't get it. Okay, you guys, there is thousands of messages on social media, and it all just confuses the shit out of me, to be honest. But there you go. But I got to get going in. But I'll tack on a couple more emails that have been sent in to us to be shared with the world through me, and then off to remote Vancouver Island I go tomorrow. All right, next in line, registration, not tagging. This is sent in October. Hi Steve, great channel. We're finally getting into the good stuff. Everything George said is true, but it is not new information. His great data dump serves as another confirmation and validation. It's awesome when information/data from different sources converge and overlap to validate each other. Many researchers have been aware of all this since 1990, but didn't have the platform to disclose what they know. So some wrote a book. I want to make you aware of this almost 2 years ago when I was in the throes of publishing my book, Revelations, the Human Hominid Connection. It's all in there. Infrasound, telepathic communication with the big ones, personal research to include the relationship the government has with Hollywood for a slow roll soft disclosure of the truth, and why the big secret. The operative term is bioregistration, where these creatures can read the distinctive atmosphere or quality that is naturally generated by an individual, and it surrounds each and every one of us. It has everything to do with our aura, energy level, frequency, varying patterns and intensity, and yes, spiritual plane, basically contributing to our overall resonance factor. The higher the better. Not everyone is the same, and upon contact with these creatures, they know who is a threat and who is not. So, it has less to do with being tagged and more to do with personal registration and identification by what you emit and or radiate. I say this because we come in contact with many of these creatures over time, and they all can make an on-the-spot determination as to the individual quality of a particular human being. This also explains why some people are tolerated and helped when others are chased out or accosted. The best thing to ever happen for this topic is the explosion of YouTube channels like yours and others that can broadcast this information out to the masses, so we can all learn to become more aware more quickly. By the way, every effort being made today by all those in the know is all about informing and educating the public domain to help some find closure after a terrifying encounter, and ultimately for expectation management. There's a huge awakening going on, and a hard disclosure isn't far behind. You can't keep a secret if the secret doesn't want to stay hidden. Sincerely, TJ Neely, Madison, Alabama. Alabama. TJ, thanks for that email, man. Or ma'am. Was that a man or a woman? Sorry. Alabama. God, I miss going down to the south. I should be deer hunting right down there this past month. But anyway, that's an informative email. I'm sure some people are going to be nodding, some people are going to be gazing at the screen wondering what the F. But either way, take from where you will or leave it, you guys. And you want to keep on sending more information to us that you feel will help TJ, then please do it, all right? And you guys know I've been fighting my ass off, not on this channel, but in other places, with what's going on today. And why the fierce fight out of me more than some, unfortunately. You know, like I said earlier, what's frustrated me to death with the majority of the people who previously held the narrative when it comes to this topic is the fact that they are willing to stay 100% focused on just this topic. It drives me insane. And it also drives me insane because I've never heard anybody, maybe one or two people, but I've never heard very many people when it comes to this topic say out loud, why are we being lied to? What else are we being lied to about? Because this isn't everything. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very frustrating. How can all these people like, so-and-so's got a PhD, so-and-so's a doctor, so-and-so's a biologist, so-and-so's done this, so-and-so's studied this for 30 years. I don't give a shit. Why have all of those people, all these special man-made credentials, not voiced once publicly that they're pissed off or frustrated that we're being lied to? Why is that? Right? Isn't that a different angle to come at it? You take a look at all those previous so-called big names in the Sasquatch community, and you wonder why not one of those dumbasses has ever voiced publicly with frustration as to why we're being lied to and what else are we being lied to about. Not one of them. They all just play along in the Sasquatch theme and stay there like stagnant frickin' water in a rock pond. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little pissed because right now, with everything that's going on, like I said earlier, when I was 17 years old seeing that thing, I instantly knew we're being lied to back then. So you can imagine the different routes that I took, all the questions I asked as I was growing up and learning about life, right? And I asked a lot of questions on my own, and I looked at a lot of things on my own, and I still am, and a lot of things stand out. Plain as frickin' vanilla, I'll tell you what. It's frustrating times, but before I start babbling, I'll save that for the other channel. Let's get some more voices heard, all right? Because that's one thing I can sure as hell do right now. All right, listen to this one. My cousin's encounter. From your video, Proud Lakota Cherokee Man. I thought I sent this email, but I found it in my draft folder from July 22nd, 2021. Hi Steve, my name is David Meadow. You can use my name. I am Brian Stidham's, he used his name before, he's not afraid of anyone, cousin, and was there the day the 8-foot-tall female Sabe blew on his back. It's been 46 years since that day, and yet I remember every minute. Brian told me he emailed you and told me to check out the video. Every word was true, though I would add, Brian didn't see the Sabe till she was walking up the bank. My father and I saw the whole thing from the water. I would add the Sabe looked old. The face was that of an elderly native woman, but the eyes were blacker than black. Her breasts hung down to her stomach, and the wrinkled forehead looked like stacks of grayish skin stacked on top of each other. Also, when she reached the top of the bank, she knelt down, and her knuckles were touching the ground as she crouched down. I was scared to death. I couldn't move until my father grabbed my arm and pulled me up the riverbank. That was the only time I can remember my father ever running. My father would never go back to the woods. When I moved out to Washington, he only come to see once. My house is on a tract of land surrounded by forest. He would stand in front of the front room. He would stand in front of the front room picture window and stare into the timber as though he was waiting for a Sasquatch to walk out. My mother, being half Lakota and half Cherokee, who was Brian's father's sister, was more in tune with natural world than my father. My father was part Blackfoot and Scottish and really didn't believe the native ways. My mother, on the other hand, well, I never saw an animal she couldn't speak to. She could be around any animal and seem to communicate with them. My mother was like Brian's father. They believed in the old ways and saw nature as an extension of themselves. My mother was so opposite of my father, it's a wonder I was born. She loved the woods and spent a lot of time in them. She had known about the Sabe since my uncle, Brian's father, bought the property in Michigan. In 1966, she went up to the cabin with my uncle and aunt. My father worked for General Motors and had to work. It was late June and my mother wanted to find some berries. My aunt told her where the blueberries were located and headed that way with a bucket. She found the berry patch and was picking berries when she said she didn't feel alone. She looked around and didn't see anything at first and went back to picking berries. When she looked up again, she was looking into the face of two Sabe looking at her. At first she was scared to death and didn't know what to do. What happened next was a source of contention between my mother and father till the day my father died. She told my father that the Sabe spoke to her without talking. She said the tall one, over 8 feet tall, told her, "We're going to the water." Then both the Sabe, the other, she estimated 7.5 feet tall, walked into the woods toward the river. She was knocked out of her fear after hearing the voice and told herself, "I'm going to be okay," and headed back to the cabin. She said she felt at peace after hearing the voice. When she returned to the cabin, she told my aunt what she had seen. My aunt wasn't surprised, but felt bad for not giving her a heads up about the Sabe. My mother counted the experience as a gift from the natural world, which so many have forgotten how to embrace it as a part of the natural way. My father, on the other hand, told her she must have suffered from heat stroke and hallucinated the whole thing. Well, that all changed the day in the river. He forbid my mother and I of ever speaking of the incident. Needless to say, that didn't fly. They argued over the incident for months. I believe that day in the river was the start of the decline of my father. He became quiet and wouldn't leave the house unless it was absolutely necessary. About two years before he retired, he began to drink. After he retired, it was the 5th of brandy a day. I tried to get him help, but all he would tell me is, if you can't erase my memory, that's the only thing that'll help me. He told me he would see Sabe in his dreams. It tormented him the rest of his days. He passed away in '97, 2 years after he retired from a heart attack. When the ambulance arrived, he was gone, but he had a look of peace on his face that I hadn't seen since I was a boy. He was no longer tormented. My mother spent the last years of her life creating a journal for me. It contains the stories that my grandparents taught her about being Lakota. My mother had a crazy sense of humor. She wrote the journal in English and in Lakota. The note in front simply says, "Figure it out." She wrote of her experience with the Sabe and other experiences she had in the woods she really couldn't explain. She passed away in her sleep on the morning of September 11th, 2001. She never knew the horror of that day. I live near the Spokane Reservation here in Washington. A couple of close friends are with the tribe, and I have told them about that day in Michigan. They nonchalantly looked at me with the expression of, "So?" They speak of the Sequaniati. Sequaniati. It's pronounced Chawniti. Okay. It means tall, hairy man that smells like burnt hair. They're not friendly. I've seen one. 9 feet tall, dark brown, and it screamed at me with the power of a jet engine slamming my body. I ran off the mountainside in my truck and got the hell out of there. My native friends told me the tall man has plenty of reasons to not like us. They have tales of the days when the Spanish and French came through the Northwest and killed these tall men. It's actually well documented. I still go back to the mountain, but if I feel as though I shouldn't be there, I leave. Anyhow, that's what I can add. These tall men, Sabe, Sasquatch, etc. are here. Nothing more needs to be said about that. It only takes one incident with these people to change the way you see the world. It's from that moment on, you question every statement, article, and website dealing with the tall man, and well, every subject we are being told is the truth. My mother used to say, listen to what nature tells you, it never lies. Amen to that. Have a good day, Steve, and stay safe in the timber and bush. Love the scenery. Sincerely, David. David, I absolutely appreciate that email. I have a feeling I read it before, but I don't give a shit. That's worth reading 5 or 10 times a year. And mail me again, all right? You got anything else you want to send in that will help the people or help me? Or even help you or help somebody else, and send it in, all right? And we'll appreciate that greatly. You do. Your average independent human being. Once they see one of these things, you question everything, and you want to know what the F, what's going on, why are we being lied to, and it all links up. It all links up. Why we are being lied to about that topic links up with why we're being lied to about many topics, why we're being manipulated like today we are being manipulated so fiercely. Anyway, let's get some more voices heard. At the end of a long couple days, I'm tired, kind of cranky. I feel like tearing the head off some bad people, and I can't. So let's get some voices shared instead. All right, what do we got here? This was sent in. This is in October as well. Wow. Marked as red. One saved me from a cougar. Hi Steve, I sent this to you last year. Must have gotten lost in the pile. There was a lot more info in the email, but I cut out the meat and I'm resending it. Maybe it'll help someone figure out part of their puzzle. Feel free to use my name. Thanks for all you're doing, especially the shit we don't see. I know it's a lot of shit. Here it is. Rewind 34 years to my very first encounter with this Bigfoot being. I was 8 years old, living in the Blue Mountains, not too far from the Umatilla National Forest. I had horses and other animals. One day I was headed out to meet some friends to play in the creek. I looked out and saw my horse way up the hill on our property, and I didn't want to hike up there to get him, so I decided to ride my bicycle down to the road about a mile to meet my friends. It was a hot summer day and I couldn't wait to jump in the creek, so I rode there as fast as I could. When I got there, no one was there. I parked my bike at the road, climbed over the fence into the huge cow pasture, and started walking back to the creek. I checked to make sure I had my hunting knife on me in case I saw anything worth cutting open, which at that age is everything. I ran and jumped in the creek and paddled around in the water. It was so nice I turned over on my back and just floated there looking up at the trees, swaying in the light breeze and enjoying being cold. I figured my friends would be there soon. I don't know how long I was there before I decided my friends must have had to stay home to do chores or something. I got out of the creek and sat down to put my shoes on to head back to my bike, which is 100 yards or so away. And then I felt something staring at me, and suddenly all the sound just stopped. Even the creek barely made any noise, and I looked up and almost peed myself. There, about 15 yards away, was a huge mountain lion, crouched down, ears pinned back, body twitching, tail flicking, ready to pounce. I reached for my knife and thought, oh crap, I'm gonna die fighting this thing. I started backing up slowly, not saying a thing. I knew not to run, but I also knew I had zero chance to yell for help because the closest person lived half a mile away. There was no one around to help. As I was walking backwards really slowly, I bumped into what I thought was a tree, and the cat starts to lunge at me. I raised my little arms and my big knife, and I shrieked at it to leave me alone and then braced for impact. Right as I finished shrieking, the lion stopped and froze and got a terrified look on his face. Then it hissed really loud and broke eye contact with me, but was almost still looking right at me. Then it took a step back, hissed some more while looking like it about pissed itself and turned and ran. And I mean fast. It got the F out of there. I suddenly realized there was something bigger and scarier behind me. This scares big mountain lions away from their kill, and my legs started shaking. I hadn't moved since I bumped into the tree, but I hadn't moved since I bumped into the, quote, tree, end quote, but I slowly turned around to look, and there was nothing behind me but cow pasture. Then I saw it off to the side, in the direction where the big cat ran, peeking out from behind a tree. Bigfoot. Super tall, hairy, except his face, long arms and huge muscles. And I screamed, and it crouched back a bit, but looked sad, almost like it felt bad that it scared me, and then it vanished. I looked around in a 360 turn, but saw nothing. Then there it was again. It just appeared by a tree again, but didn't hide this time and started coming towards me. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Him approaching me suddenly didn't feel scary, as I just stood still and waited to see what he was going to do. This is all happening very quickly, but as I said, it was scary now. He reached out to touch me, but I screamed in my head, not out loud, "Don't touch me!" And it pulled its arm back and motioned to me in an apologetic way and then disappeared. And then I felt the bump on my back I felt as I was backing away from the big cat into what I thought was a tree. It bumped me like that again to tell me it was him, that it was right behind me to protect me from the mountain lion. And I told it, "Thank you, but I have to go right now." I wasn't using my words. It was more of thought communication. Then it motioned towards my bike, and I started running in that direction. After I reached my bike, I realized that I was scared again and started pedaling as fast as I could. Then I saw it follow me in the brush and trees on the side of the road, so I stopped, and then he stopped. It started mimicking my movements all the way home as if we were now playmates. I asked it how it can move so fast from one place to the next, and he disappeared and then reappeared. That's how he told me they can become invisible like clear plastic wrap. I told him the way he looks scares me so bad, so can it please just be invisible if it's around me so I'm not afraid. It obliged and continued to follow me, mimicking all the way home until I reached my driveway, and it stood across the road until I opened the back door to my house and turned around to see if it was still there, and then I saw it scurry off up the mountain. I was so shook by this. My mother asked me at dinner what was wrong because I was visibly upset, and I told her I saw a cougar at the creek, to which she replied, "Yes, be careful out there." And that was that. I never told anyone, but have had many, many interactions with this one. He's traveled to be near me all over the Northwest during backcountry pack trips with my horses, or backpacking, skiing, rock climbing, hunting, and was around almost every time I was out in the mountains. I have several stories of it saving my life. Holy shit. It was a juvenile at that time, maybe something equivalent to our age, 16-ish. Throughout the years, I've watched him age. They age much slower than we do. I'm 42 now. Last time he was around me, I was hiking and got turned around and it had gotten dark. He was now fully grown, gigantic. I'd have guessed him to be mid-20s, I'd have guessed him to be mid-20s, our equivalent. He was whooping and another one answering from far away, and in seconds it was right there. The two of them escorted me through the thick forest until I reached my vehicle. They were leaping from tree to tree. They were huge trees. I realized it was his mate that was with him. They waited just inside the tree line until I opened my car door and was going to get in. I turned to look and say thank you, and although I couldn't see them, since it was so dark, I could see the brush move and felt the ground rumble as they ran off. I'll keep typing up my encounters with him and sending them in. I hope it helps. Take care, Miss Kyle Ward. Wow. Holy shit. Kylie, sorry. Kylie? K-Y-L-E. Miss Kylie Ward, I'm guessing. You know, we had somebody else from British Columbia. I think grew up around Chilliwack Lake, Cultus Lake, who lived rural and would play with his, quote, hairy friend down the road from their house. But he would always take off to the woods after whistling. And then, remember, he told us that after he played with that young being a whole bunch of times, it came to him sad one day and told him it had to leave. And they had to leave because they had to keep moving, otherwise they would get killed. And he said the same thing. He ran into this being again later on in life, and he said it was frickin' huge. It had grown to be absolutely huge. And I believe he's still somewhat in contact with this being now, the odd time, somewhere around the Fraser Valley in British Columbia. And we have a handful of other people have emailed in the same similar events as well. And not the first person to be saved by one of these beings when it comes to an animal trying to take us out. And for all you people out there who might think that cats don't attack humans, cougars have killed so many children, it's absolutely ridiculous, especially here in Vancouver Island. They're sleazy little opportunists when they can. So yeah, that story does make sense for sure. And I would be interested in hearing a lot more. If you're still watching this channel, I'm sorry your story might have been read for a while, but please understand there is thousands of them, okay? But if you could, we would for certain love to hear more from you of your experiences. And if you are still in contact with this being, and if you can communicate with them, maybe ask them some questions about us. Ask them who we are. Ask them what our story is and what our honest truth is, if you could. I think that would be pretty cool if somebody could finally give us a straight up answer for that one. And that'll help us understand a whole lot more in a whole lot shorter time. And I think that would be real helpful right now to a lot of people. But anyway, I gotta go get my fishing gear and all my stuff ready because I'm going remote tomorrow. So, talk to you guys shortly.